A Pakistani Muslim praising Israel, liberal Americans praising bin Laden. What a wild week. Two things that I just could not wrap my head around, and one conclusion where I think it's worthy enough to share with you. So earlier this week, there was a TikTok trend. Meanwhile, TikTok doesn't define it as that, even though it had 14 million views, where young liberals, let's just call them youngsters for now, just to stay all-encompassing, praised bin Laden's 2002 letter that justified his heinous 9/11 attacks to America. The letter is clearly anti-Semitic, and they really focus in on America being the oppressor worldwide, and that's really what bin Laden's justification was. Thinking that America is the oppressor, and if you're the oppressor, you're necessarily evil, and if you're the oppressed, you're necessarily good. So many wrong things with that presumption, and that's just what the extreme left is pushing. Of course, this happened on ByteDance's TikTok. Secondly, there was a pro-Israel, anti-Semitism, pro-release the hostage rally in Washington, D.C. 290,000 plus supporters of what I would say humanity showed up for humanity. One of those speakers was Anila Ali. She delivered a concise, meaningful, moderate, nuanced speech at this rally. Given her background was Pakistani, a nation that won't even let you through with an Israeli passport, she had the open-mindedness, the willingness to challenge the status quo, to give Israel a shot in her mind. She visited Israel, had preconceived notions about Israel, but didn't seal off the possibility that she might be wrong. Something I wish we could just have more of in today's world. Not only did she have an impression of Israel that was everlasting for her, she now sees reason to disseminate more of that. Bring more Muslims to Israel to see for themselves what the land is all about. Let them make the decision based on their first-hand experience. The juxtaposition of these two things made me think. Pro-bin Laden on TikTok, moderate nuance at an Israel rally. Why did the pro-bin Laden thing really garner 14 million views on TikTok? TikTok's been long lauded by the Republicans mainly as the CCP or China pulling the strings of the American psyche. TikTok is hyper addictive, hyper relevant to the watcher. I wonder how. Somewhat subject to American jurisdiction, but not entirely. Or I should say not exclusively. TikTok struggled in the media battle as soon as the bin Laden letter went viral. And I can't help the thought of they're pushing a narrative thinking the young generation, we can mold their mind into detracting from American values. In America, we value liberty. We value nuance. We value fair debate. We value respecting the other side, or at least we used to. At this point, I believe external forces are trying to take away from our American values of everything I just mentioned. External forces are trying to make the American minds dismissive of pure fact, something that's right in front of their eyes. For example, when the Anila Ali hospital was fired on by Islamic Jihad, intelligence from Israel and the Pentagon and video and conversations from the terrorists who inflicted that strike all were in front of any media consumer. But there was a wild narrative of Israel hit the Anila Ali hospital. I certainly believe there are external forces working as hard as they can to demote American values and Western tradition. The Western tradition of science, the scientific method. You have a hypothesis, you test it, and you repeat it to verify its truth. There are methods such as double blind that just verifies truth, science, experiments. But this all came on the shoulders this week of Pew Research publishing a study showing, wow, over 20% of adults or over 30% of people under 30 get their news from TikTok. The issue is not necessarily TikTok pushing a certain narrative and pushing a certain story. The issue is with the consumers thinking that if I see something on TikTok and I spend a certain amount of time on TikTok, I'm well informed. But that's certainly not the case. What do I always say here? Challenge your perspectives. Widen your diet of content, at least. At least CNN, Fox, whoever is your conventional news outlet of choice, is held to some journalistic standards. Even Fox versus the Minion shows you Fox News is held to those standards. Even more concerning to me is the decline of belief in science. Something that I'm sure we're all, if not directly involved with, one degree of separation away from. Throughout the pandemic, science took a huge hit. The scientific method and the way we conduct medicine experiments, or even soft science experiments, has just taken a huge hit. Studies of surveys, psychological studies, those are all structured courses of action, but took a huge hit. It's in preservation of these values, of nuance, fair debate, the accurate establishment of fact, where America has its values, where the West has its values, and we see that under assault. I find it so troubling that TikTok only allows for educational videos in China and any other video elsewhere. Why might that be? Thank you for joining me again. I hope you enjoyed this bit of knowledge that crossed my mind this week. Please feel free to subscribe to my newsletter, hit the button below, and can't wait to see you next week.
Enjoyed that. Feel free to visit me, shikalo.com, or feel free to follow me on socials, where I share my thoughts more often than weekly. See you next time.